What is going on, everyone? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and we are back again with another post with somebody questioning, did CGC grade their comic book wrong? And we're going to take a close look at this one. I do really appreciate that this person posted the book with the cert number visible, because then we can actually go to CGC's page, look up this book, and get nice close-up pictures of it. We'll talk about if it's worthwhile for them to maybe try resubmitting it, all that kind of stuff. I will caveat, this is on the CGC Comics Fans Facebook group, and I have found that that group is they definitely defend CGC. Versus other comic groups out there that seem to have, the average person does not like CGC. This group, you will often see a lot of comments where people actually defend CGC, which is uncommon out there on the internet. But I mean, I will say, I just want to always open this up. I know I'm going to shatter some people's, minds with this, but grading is subjective to a point. Okay. Now you have thousands of people out there, and especially when you talk about like graders and that kind of thing, where people will look at the same book and they will generally get very close grades. All right. Like people, at least that are experienced in grading, they will get very close grades on a book. So it will get you in the right area, but that does not mean you can't have half grade variances and that kind of thing out there. If you submit the same book in multiple times, you should not be surprised that you can get slightly different grades each time. It just is going to happen. And I know people will say grading is a scam because of that, blah, blah. It's like, it's the way it is. Like you've got huge amounts of combinations of flaws on these books. You have human interpretation. And I know people say AI should do it, but I mean, there's other issues there, but it's going to happen. The whole point is it gets you close so that everybody can generally agree on the approximate condition of the book when you're buying or selling a comic. But let's start getting into this. Okay. So this poster says, anyone else disappointed with their CGC rating and feel they are all over the map? I submitted my Incredible Hulk 181 and got a lower than expected grading. I have seen far worse with more greater comments on eBay and other comic forums with higher grading ratings, including one missing a stamp inside. Coincidentally, I sent a few ASMs that were in worse shape, that two received higher grades. Confused. Now, I will say he did not provide pictures of those Amazing Spider-Man books, so there's no way for us to really compare. And I mean, I'll say, like, based on what I see here, I feel like this person maybe isn't like super experienced with grading. And so there are always, like, there are books where you're going to have books that look better or worse than others, and you'll be surprised about the grade if you don't fully understand grading. It's because of what I've talked about before, where there are things called what I refer to as limiting flaws. So basically certain types of flaws that if you have those flaws, you're just not going to get above a certain grade. And so you can have books that look really, really nice and are stuck with low grades because they've got, whether it's a stain on the back cover or a tear along the spine or whatever it is. And so you can't really just look at two books and say, like, this one looks nicer than this one and say that it's going to be a higher grade, because there could be all kinds of things going on that can impact that. I'm also going to say, oh, we'll get into that later. We'll get into that later. But let's start checking out the comments, and we're going to take a close look at this book. We'll talk about values. Is it worthwhile for him to send this back in? So in the comments, first person, looks about right to me. So like I said, like surprising on the internet, somebody actually defending CGC right off the bat. And that is often what you get in the CGC Comics Fans group. But the next commenter here says, or this is actually the poster says, I understand all the comments and appreciate the feedback. It's a confusion that submitting the ASMs at the same time that are in much worse condition that got much higher grades. And I said, like, he did not provide those pictures, so there's no way for us to really do that comparison. Next person says, honestly, I would send it in again. Unfortunately, there are things such as human error, and with a 4.5, you could risk it. Maybe a professional and clean presser could help bump it. That is something we will get into in a little bit. But let's keep going on here. True, I sent in a 180, 181, and 182, all from the same owner collection. 80 and 82 came back a 7.0, 81 a 4.0. Just made me wonder. It's like, it doesn't matter if they all came from the same collection. Like, that has nothing to do with it. Just because a collection has the same books doesn't mean that they were all bought at the same time or anything like that. Those are the types of things where people might have just pre-expectations when they send in that can throw off what they end up getting back in the grading, make them think that they graded it wrong, but not necessarily. So I just got my submissions back yesterday, and I'm 100% at the same exact conclusions as you. Hold a long debate about this year at my local comic shop. I don't know. All right. Yeah. So actually, there are some people that disagree with this on there. This person says, based on these notes, very appropriate. The book could also use a clean and impress. However, those spine issues do not allow the book to lay flat. I think a 5.0 would be the best you could get out of it in its current condition. I think a 4.5 is appropriate. I could have seen this book being a 4. It's subjective, just like any other grading service, but you believe the book deserved a 6 or something like that. It's well out of reach. Yeah. And so I'll say, like I said, we'll take a close look at this. I think this book could have gotten a 5, like maybe a 5.5, but I think could have gotten a 5. And so I could see this person being like, oh, why didn't, but like, that's not something I would ever complain about. If I'm a half grade off, like I figured like that's pretty close, that's good enough. Like I said, you're going to have some variation. But if you're expecting like a 6 or a 7 or something like that, like there's just, we'll get into it. There's no way. But so these are the types of comments, back covers matter, staples matter, pages matter. There's numerous corner and edge creasings with the disastrous spine stress. I would say a 4.5 is a gift. I don't really think a 4.5 is a gift. Like, I mean, maybe it could get a 4, but I don't feel like 4.5 is a gift on this. And this person says subjective process done by subjective people. It's going to happen. Okay. All right. So we get the idea. Grading is subjective. So let's take a close look at this book. So we're going to jump over to CGC's page because this was graded recently, which means that we can look up the cert number, and we're going to have nice high resolution scans on CGC's page, which is one of the great things that they have added over the last few years. It just makes it really easy to check out books like this. So here's the book. We can see it was just graded in April. And then, so it says spine stress lines to cover, crease top, left top back cover, crease left bottom of back cover, tear left center of back cover, multiple bend to cover, multiple crease right bottom of front cover. So first thing there is you see there are multiple issues on the back cover. And so when you've got multiple issues on the back cover, that can make people think that their book is nicer than it actually is, because the back cover does also matter. This is another thing, multiple bend cover. So when I see that, when you see a word like bend or finger bends or that kind of stuff on grader's notes, that often means it wasn't pressed or it wasn't pressed well. If I would not be surprised if this person had their pressing done by CGC or by CCS, which is CGC's pressing, and they generally are not good. That is well known across the board. Like I think they only do cold pressing or something like that. They don't do cleaning, or you rarely, I think, will ever see them do like cleaning on a book. And so just send it to a third-party presser. Like, do not use them to do your pressing. Just send it to a third-party presser, and you will be happier. And I've recommended pressers in the past. There's some examples. I use a guy named The Comic Book Presser. That's typically who I send my books to. There's also Rocket Comics that I've used. They're real good. And there's Impressive Comics. I think it's Impressive Comics or Impressive Comic Books. They're also very good. So there are a number of very good pressers. I mean, there are others out there as well. Those are just the ones that I have personally used. So let's take a close look at this book. I mean, look at this. Look how nice it is when you can zoom in on this. And so, I mean, we can already see like there's a fair amount of stress on the spine of this book. And so when you see that, you're just like, I mean, there's no way this book is getting a 6 or a 7 or anything like that. So we're already probably down in about the right range. I mean, we've got, kind of a decent length crease here, a fair amount of stress, some edge wear, this, tear kind of like deep crease on the right. You can see a fair amount of like creasing on the right edge. And you've got like this type of creasing. When you have these where it's like, you can tell it's like been bent multiple times back and forth, like those are the types of creases that tend to force you down into lower grades. If it's a nice, smooth, like single line crease, maybe you do a little better, but this, it just shows more wear. You've got a crease here. Now let's go to the back cover of this book. And you can see, I think this is the crease that it's talking about here, which makes me think like this book was maybe pressed, but not really pressed well. You can see there might be some creasing here. Not a whole lot back here, but I think, where's the tear? I think this is the tear right here. It looks like maybe it's like a 1/3 of an inch, maybe a 1/2 of an inch tear, or it's this little guy right here. I couldn't really find where the crease was in the bottom left. I don't know if it's just this thing or if it's just kind of hidden in the white. But one thing I'll say, when I look at this back cover, this tells me this book was not cleaned. Like if this book was cleaned, you need to fire your presser and cleaner. Like this person, whoever did this, either didn't clean the book or did a terrible job cleaning the book. And so the whole thing with in the comments or in the grader's notes where it said there were bends, like that tells me it either wasn't pressed or it wasn't pressed well. And this back cover, seeing all this dirt kind of spotty stuff all over the back, tells me this book was not cleaned. And so this is the type of thing that could be holding your book back, because it's that visual appeal. It's the general visual appeal. When someone flips this over and sees this and they see nice, bright, clean, a back cover, or they see this, they're going to give it a lower grade. And so that's one thing. Like, if you want to risk resubmitting this book, like to this person, like, you've got to get this book cleaned and pressed properly first. You should not see a comment like multiple bend on cover in your grader's notes. And you should absolutely not see this type of dirt all over the back cover. That's why I think most people will get their books pressed at some point. Oh, it's actually got a nice little tear kind of piece missing up here too. I didn't see that before. But if you're like this, just to me, this screams CCS. Like, this screams that it was pressed by CGC. And so if you want to risk it, crack it out, send it to a third-party presser, send it back in. I mean, like I said, I think like maybe after you do that, you can get a 5. Like, I mean, super gift, maybe a 5.5, but I feel like 5.5 is probably unlikely. I just think there's a few too many creases. Then seeing like, this little tear piece out of the top here and just the general spine wear and like this little bit longer crease here. I think, 5 to a 5.5 is really your max in that. And so let's say, like, is that worth it? Because this is like, when you send this book in, CGC is going to throw this into their walkthrough tier, like guaranteed. Like, there's some books you can slip by, like you can send in and you can slip it by and it'll get it through vintage and save yourself some money on the pressing or on the grading, or you can send it in high value, save yourself a little bit of money. But with the Hulk 181, as long as that book isn't like a 0.5, maybe a 1, even a 1 is probably over $1,000 still. Like, you're just going to get thrown into the unlimited tier. They're going to upcharge you if you don't put it in there in the first place. And so that's going to cost you, if we want to jump over to submission, here we go. So services and fees. So jump over to submission. So this is going to throw you into unlimited, and you can see it's a minimum of $115. If you have an account, you get a little bit cheaper. You can be down around like, is it 20% off? So like $95 or something. But you've also got the shipping, sending it in, the shipping back to you if you're going to get it pressed first. So like, this is probably going to cost you roughly $150 to regrade this book. So that's one of the big things you got to consider. What's it going to cost you to regrade this book? And so if we jump over to GPA, this is GP analysis. It's one of the pricing tools I use. I looked up Hulk 181. And if we go down and look at a 4.5, we can see the 90-day average is 2,050, last sale 1,800. I think, what's this, the 12-month? Let me double check. Yeah, 12-month average, sorry for all the scrolling, is 2,167. So if we take a look at these, like, what do I think this book is probably going for right now? Probably around, roughly 2,100. But to me, it's still kind of trending down. I would still think it might be going down some. So what's a 4.0 go for? Like, what if it comes back a 4? So 4.0, you can see here, going around the same price, like around 2,100. So you're not going to gain anything. You're not going to lose anything. So at least from that perspective, your risk is pretty low. Let's look at what a 5.0 is going for. I mean, there's this crazy high 28.95 sale, like the highest sale of the year. So that's not the sale price you're probably going to get. Like, that was a lucky sale by someone. So what is this generally going for? If we look at all these sales here, it looks like it's going around like 22, 22.50, maybe 23. So like 2,300. So if I think like maybe your best shot is getting a 5, and it's worth 2,100 right now at a 4.5, maybe even a little lower based on the 90-day, but 2,100 as a 4.5, and you can get it up to 2,300 as a 5.0. That's a $200 gain. It's going to cost you probably, like I said, at least $150 to get it pressed, cleaned, regraded, all of that after shipping. So probably best case scenario, you're up $200. You back out $150 for all that. You've made $50. And you've added the risk that maybe it comes back a 4.5. Maybe it comes back a 4. Like, it's not worth it. I mean, if it's a 5.5, like I said, and I think a 5.5 is very unlikely. A 5.5 looks like here is going around 2350, maybe 2400. There's a couple higher sales, but also more lower sales. So like it just depends how, you know, your forum where you sell it and all that. But let's pretend it's 2500. So you're up $400 and you back out 150. Now you're up $250. And that's probably like, to get that 5.5, I mean, maybe a 5% chance, maybe. You're probably have like maybe like a 30% chance of getting the 5.0, and it's probably a 60 to 65% chance, or let's say a 60% chance or 50% chance you're gonna get a 4.5, and a 10% chance you're gonna get a 4. So it's just not worth it. You know, that's the type of stuff you need to look at with resubs. It's like, it's got to be either it's a super expensive book where a half grade really, really matters. You know, it's worth thousands and thousands of dollars in half a grade, or it's got to be really far off. And I just don't think this is really far off. I think it's probably roughly right now, based on what I see. If you got it actually cleaned and pressed by somebody who knows what they're doing, maybe you get a 5, like, or an outside shot at a 5.5. But like when you talk about the cost to get it done, it just isn't worth it. So yeah, me, if I was this person, I don't think they should be disappointed. I think their expectations were maybe too high when they sent it in. That's what I think on it. Maybe they were sold the book raw and somebody told them it was a 6 or something, and so that's what they were expecting. Maybe that's what the seller told them. And, you know, they just, you know, went in thinking that seller was being honest and they weren't. I don't know. Like, we're speculating here. But I mean, I do generally agree with the people in the comment section here. For the most part, I mean, there's some people that think it's undergraded, but I think it's graded roughly correct. And I just don't think it's worth it to send it in to get a 5 and maybe make $50, or maybe you lose a little money. You know, like if it comes back the same grade, you're out $150. Like, coming back the same grade isn't a win. You're losing there. But let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. You know, do you think this book is a 4.5? Do you think it's a 5, a 4, a 3, whatever it might be? Also, do you think this book was cleaned? I just, if it was, man, that person is really should be ashamed of the work that they did, because it is not good. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.